In a hugely symbolic gesture, King Charles III will be delivering the speech from the throne and opening the new session of Parliament in Canada on the 27th of May. This move comes in the backdrop of the constant annexation threats coming in from US President Donald Trump. King Charles III will be traveling along with Queen Camilla to Canada on the 26th of May as announced by Buckingham Palace, as well as confirmed by the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, who pointed out that the King will be making the speech of the throne in person this time around. This is to send out a message to US President Donald Trump that Canada is a sovereign nation and will continue to remain so. King Charles III, in his speech from the throne, is expected to outline the duties, the responsibilities, and what his government is expected to do over the next few years. This is a new government that the people of Canada have elected, and normally the Parliament session is opened by the representative of the King, that is in the form of the Governor General. So after 44 years, the last time around in 1977, when Queen Elizabeth opened the Parliament, this is being seen as a gesture that is coming in specifically because of the threats from the United States. US President Donald Trump has been calling Canada the 51st state of the United States and had been referring to the former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as the Governor of Canada. Though he hasn't done that since Mark Carney took over, but the issue of the 51st state of Canada has been raised by US President Donald Trump in his conversations with Mark Carney as well. Specifically, the conversation on the 28th of March, the first between the two, which was a telephonic conversation where it is believed that US President Donald Trump raised the issue that he wanted Canada to be the 51st state of the US and how Canada would benefit out of it, to which Mark Carney and his office has revealed said that this was never on the table and will never be on the table in the future. Now, Mark Carney is going to the White House on Tuesday to meet President Trump in person after he has got a full term as Prime Minister after the elections. It is believed that they will be discussing, that is, the two sides will be discussing a new economic and a security agreement. However, it is not clear whether Canada is first going to ask the US to revoke the punishing tariffs against it since President Trump took over before starting to negotiate a new agreement. In fact, the tariffs are also being closely associated with the annexation threat. Many believe that the idea of the Trump administration is to weaken Canada to an extent that it is able to annex Canada as its 51st state. The punishing tariffs against Canada can have a crippling effect on its economy. In fact, the auto sector is already seeing a hit with job losses in Ontario, where some manufacturing auto parts have been paused for some time by some of the big auto manufacturers. Though the three big auto manufacturers of the US, that is Ford, GM and Stellantis, have told President Trump and his office that these measures, that is the tariffs against the auto sector, will have an effect on their domestic auto sector, their jobs as well. However, these tariffs continue to hang as a sword over the head of Canada. For the moment though, the tariffs on CUSMA-compliant auto parts has been lifted and the tariffs on American-made parts have also been lifted, but the overall 25% tariffs on the auto sector remain. 25% tariffs on the aluminium and steel sector also remain, and 25% tariffs on all goods that are not CUSMA-compliant also remain, apart from 10% tariffs on energy imports into US from Canada. CUSMA is the renegotiated trade agreement in North America between Mexico, US and Canada. This agreement was renegotiated from what was earlier known as NAFTA, the North Atlantic Free Trade Agreement. This happened during the former tenure of President Trump. And now, the two countries, that is Canada and the US, are looking at negotiating a fresh trade and security agreement. Meanwhile, the threat of annexation continues against Canada, even though a reference was not made in the conversation that happened between Prime Minister Mark Carney and President Trump when the call was made after Mark Carney won a full term. However, this has been reiterated several times over by President Trump already and also the White House spokesperson, and therefore this is a very serious threat and Mark Carney is treating it as one. Initially, when US President Donald Trump was referring to Canada as the 51st state of the US, it was taken perhaps as a joke, but no longer. In the past 3 months, it's become amply clear that the annexation threats could be real. And that is the reason that we are seeing these steps being taken by Canada. And the symbolic gesture now of King Charles III coming in person to Canada to open the House of Parliament and to address in person the speech from the throne are all being seen in the context of these threats.